Welcome to episode 399 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. In a moment, I'll be joined by Phil Sambrook from Zebra. We're going to talk about middle and last mile logistics. We're going to talk about delighting customers in the last mile, the importance of success in the middle mile, and much more. This is a special episode brought to us by Zebra, and I'm really interested to get into this topic with Phil. So, enough about this. Let's get into it. Phil Sambrook from Zebra. Joining me on the line is Phil Sambrook. Phil is EMEA Transport and Logistics Strategy at Zebra. He is it. If you're looking for any transport and logistics strategy at Zebra, you basically end up with Phil. Is that right, Phil? Have I got that right?
Well, I'm going to say yes, because I can't say no now, can I? But I've never been called it before. But seriously, thank you for having me.
Now, we're going to talk about technology, obviously, because what's Zebra known for? It's known for technology. But we're not going to start talking about zapping barcodes or anything like that, even though I know there's a core of my audience that is desperate for us to talk about exactly how we should zap barcodes and what is the optimal angle to zap a barcode at. We may get to that at the end. We'll see. You have to stay right to the end to find out. Let's talk a little bit about the state of the sector, though, Phil. With e-commerce, we know it's driven changes, we know it's driven volumes, but it's created problems that we have to solve as well, hasn't it? The problem is that we want customers to have a great experience when they're receiving the parcel, but it's more than just zapping a barcode on a customer's doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think your listeners will know, and the industry knows itself, that the demand for immediacy, the demand or the urgency that is put onto things now, the demand for customer satisfaction, it all comes at a cost, and that cost is in the supply chain, both in terms of physical cost, physical euros, dollars, pound sterling, whatever it may be, but then also in terms of time. What we're asking people to do through the supply chain is difficult to achieve, and particularly given those time constraints and given those exacting demands that we all have.
Customers want to be delighted in the last mile. We hear that phrase a lot, don't we? We want to delight our customers in the last mile. But the parcel actually has to get to that point. And so when we were preparing for this call, Phil, I think you might have said the middle mile determines e-commerce delivery success. I mean, what do you mean by that?
I think it's final mile is where success is seen. Well, success or failure is seen. So that's where the CSAT scores, the NPS scores are typically made. That's where the reviews on Trustpilot are seen and are made. But it can't be achieved without that work that goes on under the roof, in the warehouse, in the supply chain itself. So I think sometimes it's forgotten just how hard these people work within that middle mile, within the confines of the earlier parts of the supply chain, to ultimately give the final mile delivery people the opportunity to deliver on time.
And we see customers will be quick to complain when they see, for example, that their parcel's stuck in a middle mile loop. It seems to be going between two delivery centres instead of being out for delivery. And this is linked to, obviously, that other, we've mentioned a few of the acronyms under industry. Is it delivered in full, on time, as ordered, which whenever I try to pronounce, I mess it up. I miss out the on full or the as ordered or something like that. And that, obviously, being able to do all of that flows through to workloads in call centres and things like that, doesn't it?
We're humans, and I think this is where sometimes we have to think like humans and think like consumers. If you don't know where something is, or you don't know what is happening with a particular parcel, you have to ask a question of somebody. Now, if the data's there, if the data's available, and there is a good quality tracking information, good quality support information, then okay, you may be able to self-service. But if we don't know something, human nature is, who do we go to? Who do we ask? Where? We don't want to be left in the dark. And those, again, back to acronyms, those WISMO queries, where is my order?
We've been talking about how customers, the recipients, because they are the ones who generate the parcels, they pay for it and all of that. We've been through this discussion many times on the podcast over the years. Customers are demanding, they want fast delivery, they can be unforgiving, they can be quick to complain on anti-social media.
Anti-social media, there we go, yeah.
Yeah, I've managed to lever that one in early on in the conversation. How can we apply technology to help move parcels quickly and accurately, especially in that middle mile?
I think the one thing I say is not just how, it's that we have to. It's that we have to do it. If we look at the journey of, I don't know, she hates me doing it, but pick my daughter, 13 years old, sitting at 10 o'clock at night, placing an order and not just wanting it for 10 o'clock the next morning. She expects it. It is going to happen. It has to happen. So we have, as operators, 12 hours to process the order, take the payment, move the order through the OMS, the WMS, get it picked, get it packed, get it shipped, trunk it, transport it, ship it, all of those things depending upon the different elements of any particular supply chain. It's tough. If we are to look at doing it manually, we will fail. And it's just a simple fact of the matter, it will fail. So we have to look, and this is no sales pitch, we have to look at technology and we have to look at how we can move goods through the middle mile, through the warehouse, the fulfillment center, through that pick phase, out through into the final mile more efficiently, more quickly. So how can we pick more quickly? How can we well, let's go back a step. How can we receipt more quickly so the stock is available for sale more quickly? The more available the stock is, the more readily available the inventory is, the more quickly we can make a sale. Once we make that sale, how quickly and can we process the order? What do we have to do? What are the stages we have to do? So where can technology come into that step to make the pick and the pack ship quicker, faster, more expedited? And then finally, at that final mile, how do we make that final mile delivery more efficient, more quickly? So for those delivery drivers that are doing a fantastic job but are constrained by time, more and more parcels every day on their routes, more and more geography to cover with more and more homes being built and estates being built across the globe. How do we enable them to be able to deliver more quickly, more efficiently, and move from delivering parcel one, right first time, on time, in full, as you say, all of those acronyms that will be different for different businesses, but then on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. That's where technology comes in. That's why Zebra exists. We have to develop the solutions now that support those workers and augment those workers and enable them to do the job more quickly and more efficiently. And also, hopefully, make it a little bit more enjoyable for them, because it's not easy at times. And it's, I've been there, I've done it. It's hard. It's hard, long hours if you're doing something manually. And particularly, again, forgive me, I'm going to say something now that might be controversial, but it's nearly Christmas. So we're nearly coming up to those peak months where everything goes a little bit busier and crazy, let's say.
Busier and crazier. Some people might be listening to that thinking, well, it's just a description of Christmas at my house. Returning to the topic at hand, we're talking about how technology can make things better. Yeah. We often think about the technology allowing e-commerce merchants to inject parcels into delivery networks later and later to enable next day delivery. So that 13-year-old ordering at 10 o'clock can actually order at 11 o'clock or even midnight for delivery the next day. Is it next day when it's midnight? Ponder that one, everybody, and let me know. What can we talk about then when it comes to the technology, say, in a sorting center or in the middle mile? How can some of this, what's some of the new technology that's out there that can help us improve the parcel supply chain, whatever we want to call it?
Well, some of it's not necessarily new, and some of this isn't revolutionary, but some of it is just doing things better and more efficiently with technology that is available now and has advanced. So if we look at inbound receipt of goods, rather than a one-for-one scan or pallet entry into the business at the dock door, looking at RFID technologies, we are seeing huge gains in both productivity, in time, in the availability or the readiness, let's say, of stock on the shelf from implementing RFID scans at the dock door. Product becomes more available more quickly on a more consistent basis, more accurate in terms of the delivery and the put away, less room for error. Once it's in, again, it's removing the individual manual tasks, let's say, and improving on those. So rather than an individual scan, for example, with a handheld scanner, which will still continue and will still be strong in many warehouses, across the globe, but also looking at things like machine vision, fixed industrial scanning, automation of those scans at the pack bench, just simple things, simple technology changes, readily available technology. But technology then that speeds that throughput, expedites that processing, and does deliver against the metrics we need to deliver. The metrics don't typically change for what we do in this transport and logistics marketplace. We know what we have to do, and they've been the same for many, many years. They're just getting shorter in terms of the time frame, quicker in terms of the throughput, all of the time when satisfaction demands are at the highest. So this is not my pitch to say, scrap the worker, scrap the process, change the way the world works completely. This is more to say, there is technology available from us and from others, of course, that can enable a better, more efficient process and deliver a more consistent output on an ongoing basis.
Let's just continue to talk about the customer then. One of the things that we often talk about is it's not just that you've delivered it in full on time, but that actually the package is intact. Yeah. So you mentioned machine vision briefly there. How can machine vision help with things like package integrity and keeping conveyor belts moving and things like that?
Well, it's not just package integrity, it's supply chain integrity across the piece. And it's that chain of custody of the product moving through all elements of the supply chain. So machine vision can start to look and identify at any one particular point, whether that parcel, that packet, that however it's presented is fit for purpose, is obviously presented in the correct way, there's no damage. And ultimately what is there in terms of the correct label, the correct packaging in some instances, and that it's all intact and ready to be moved on. So instantaneous, fast, efficient, data flow is there. It can be fed anywhere within the business into whatever software system people need it to see. So again, just in certain elements back in that middle mile and under the roof, just by implementing an improved technology, a different way of looking at things in a more expedited way, instantly then, time savings, cost savings, efficiency savings, and back to that point of the satisfaction, which we always have to look at. We keep looking at that demand for satisfaction. We know if there are any problems, God forbid, we know where they are. We know what we can do with them, and we can follow that process through. I don't like to say it, but in the instances of where there are elements of fraud, we have full integrity through the supply chain. So we know where, when, and how something may have happened. Or if it hasn't, we know where we can challenge. We know who to challenge and we know when to challenge. And we can do it with data. It's not just subjective. It's not emotion. It is factual, data-driven insights with imagery that can be presented to the customer as and when necessary.
A lot of what we're talking about here is making operations more efficient. It's also helping workers, I think. That's part of, in my opinion, no, it's just like my opinion, man. But hey, in my opinion, part of what technology does in the sorting center is make the jobs of humans better. And you mentioned RFID, you mentioned being able to check package integrity. We're still talking about things like keeping the parcels flowing. When we talk about the human element in warehouses, in delivery centers, in logistics centers, we're often dealing with people who are new to the industry. They need to be trained up. Our new hires need to be trained up. They need to understand everything from the business to safety and everything like that. But obviously, we want to have efficiency as well. So how can we use technology to improve the efficiency, improve the onboarding, improve safety, and improve the efficiency of our workforce?
I think it's one of those, and you've touched on it there. It's one to remember that supply chain and logistics, it's only really become prevalent in people's minds over recent years, and probably back to those dark days and COVID. But supply chain become very, very visible very, very quickly because people started to understand what actually happens and when it happens. But I'm an old man, and I can say that when I was 13 years old, and stood in front of that careers teacher, I didn't hold my hand up and say, "Please, sir, I'd love to work in a warehouse." I don't think many people did. I don't think many people still do. So labour is in short supply. It just is. Globally, we know labour is constrained. We know it's difficult to attract. We know it's difficult then to retain people because of what we're asking them to do. We're asking people to do very, very difficult jobs in an environment where time is of the essence. So there is no room for error. There is little room for delaying the job in hand. So technology comes into both, yes, to delight the customer, but it also comes to enable the worker, and those workers are our lifeblood. They are the people that make the industry tick. They're the people that make the businesses run, and they make or break the success of the business. But again, as you say, because labour is difficult to attract, typically dependent upon the country and dependent upon where, language may be a challenge. First and second generation migrants coming to a particular country to come to work and come to deliver upon the proposition, but their first language may not be the native language of the country. So how can we enable this from a technology perspective? So whether it be language companions and knowledge companions on a device, whether it be voice picking, language translation models, all of these things to enable the technology. We also have to bear in mind as well that, again, I say I'm an old man. I learned a different way now than the demographic of the worker today. So they demand technology. They expect technology. That's how they learned. That's how they were educated. That's how they were brought up. That's what they do in their private lives. So it makes sense to adopt and to adapt technology within a warehousing and logistics environment, within a final mile environment. So AI, simplifying some of the processes that we have, all goes some way to enhancing the satisfaction of the user and the worker, and wanting them to progress their career in an operational environment. So again, you'll see I'm deliberately not trying to sell to you, but I'm quite passionate about this.
I'm desperate for you to sell to people, Phil. Come on.
I love the fact that we make the world go around. From a transport and logistics perspective, we make the world go around. It's a big, bold statement, and I'm not afraid to say it. But technology is going to enable that next generation and that next step. It's going to enable, talked about my daughter, I'll talk about my son. I've got a 9-year-old son. If I enable technology, if I give him that opportunity, if the business, if Zebra, if we develop that solution, can he come and work with us after he's finished university at 22, 23, whatever it means? So that's one of the things I look at is I want to enable and I want to work with businesses to enable that future generation of worker, but also then to delight and stop the where is my order queries and stop the anti-social media, as you quite well quoted.
I didn't make that one up. I've got to concede. It wasn't me. Somebody else came up with that, but it's about right. I've often called it a sewer of discontent, social media. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards, let's talk about the last mile. I did say that we're going to talk about the optimum angle to scan. I was kidding everybody. We're not really going to talk about the optimum angle to scan a barcode at. Anyway, talking about the last mile, there have been a few big trends in the last mile. If we want to talk about what the big trends are, we talked a lot about route optimization. And that's a continuing thing in the last mile, route optimization. One of the other things, I'm talking about the useful innovation in the last mile. There's been a few things, which I won't go into now, which I think are quite unuseful. But proof of delivery, I think, is a really important thing for us to discuss in our sector and how we can get proof of delivery right. Now, I would broadly say that the leaders in our sector do photo proof of delivery as part of that.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the work that you've done with FedEx when it comes to using photos as proof of delivery.
You're right, as you say. Photo proof of delivery isn't necessarily new news. But back to that point and back to what I said earlier, we're not looking necessarily for revolution. We're just looking for that simple change, that 1% done more consistently, more often. So what we've developed as a business is what we call picture proof of delivery. So again, straightforward. A photo-based system at doorstep on a handheld device. But we've added the AI element to it. So what we do is we worked with FedEx quite closely to take their standard operating procedure and understand what it is that they need to do at the doorstep, what makes a compliant photo, what doesn't, what legislation and compliance they have to have from a legislative perspective. And then we made it better. So all we tried to do was simplify that process and speed up the time spent at doorstep. So in the instances of where FedEx is delivering to Ian, new microphone, new speaker, whatever it may be, parcel has already been scanned. Parcel is identified within a handheld device. Look at the location. So we place the parcel, in this instance, on the doorstep, for example. We point the device, green framing around the image, good to go. Click away. Red image or red frame around the image doesn't work. Move on. Go back to green. This is saving up to 5 seconds at doorstep in certain instances at certain locations with FedEx and others that we are trialing that I can't talk about today. But 5 seconds at doorstep doesn't sound too huge, but until you start talking upwards of 200 parcels per day, potentially per driver, per route, across different depots, across a landmass, obviously, that is huge. So the savings that potentially can be achieved just by simplifying a process, by adding an element of AI, by understanding who the customer is, what they need to achieve, when they need to achieve it, understanding what then the parameters are from a legislative perspective, what works and what doesn't. We've made something much, much better, and it's working very, very well for us, and it's rolling out across the globe.
I think this is a very important development, because when you look at the Facebook groups that have been set up to criticize delivery companies, you'll see the examples there. Here's a photo of a parcel. It could be anywhere.
Yeah,
or how can we improve that to help the drivers? And I love that. Would you say up to 5 seconds? So an improvement across a whole network. I mean, that's potentially huge.
That's it.
But, yeah.
And it's also it's to make sure that in those countries that do have, let's say Europe and GDPR, it's huge. It's a big risk to businesses, but it's there for a specific reason. So although it could be seen as a hindrance, it could be seen as a challenge, it's been developed for a particular reason and to protect user data, to protect the individual consumer. So it's there, let's work with it, but let's understand then how we can make it better, more efficient and faster. So back to that point, all of the things around geolocation and the coordinates around the device are still captured, but we have a compliant photo. So at any one particular point, if this is a leave safe delivery, or if we are handing over to the individual homeowner, we can actually say comfortably and consistently, your parcel has been delivered to your requirements at your location of choice. We are looking to sort of go one step further as well, and potentially in instances of needing more what we call in hyper-precise locationing. So in certain instances where, I don't know, you could say that the parcel has been delivered, but there's a huge tolerance in terms of the actual square meterage of where you've delivered it to. So again, could we take that one step further? And technology that we're introducing now around hyper-locationing, hyper-precise locationing, we shall take it down to the square meter, or even low, even tighter in certain instances. So again, I can't stress enough that the technology we look to develop is always following research and work with customers, with prospects, with partners. It's to understand what their challenges are, why their challenges are there. And we then develop technology to meet both the requirements now and the problem statements now, but the potential solutions that they will potentially need in the future.
Let's talk about the first mile then, and parcel drop-off. So I understand Zebra's been working with Evri to create a self-service parcel drop-off solution. Can you tell us a bit about that? There's a lot of interest in this kind of solution at the moment in the delivery world.
It's one of those things where we think about parcel drop-off and we think about, personally as a consumer, it has been typically difficult to use. So in the instances of where we've created a solution for Evri, the user's typically walking into a convenience retail store, which is busy. It's not, parcel drop-off isn't their primary aim or goal. What we've developed is a solution that sits standalone away from the counter, self-service, but enables fast, prompt, efficient printing of labels. Print the label, accept the parcel, label the parcel, hand the parcel over to storekeeper, store owner, supervisor, whoever it may be, and then move on. But again, take it one step further in terms of when the scan is being done, highlight where you need to hold the parcel. So red identification marker that sort of shines a light to say where you need to hold the parcel, the packet. Labels. We've created linerless labels, so we don't actually have a backing to the label. So again, the storekeeper, the shop front, they don't have to sort of hold waste bins on the shop floor full of plastic-based labels that are hugely harmful to the environment. So again, simple technology, simple changes, simple tweaks, all enabled to speed the throughput for both creation of label, return of products, sending of product, whatever it may be, through that storefront environment for and on behalf of one of the largest carriers in the UK at the moment. So again, developed bespoke, developed in tandem, developed for Evri, now looking to be adopted and adapted and taken to market elsewhere.
One of the little things in there that you didn't skim over, but I just want to quickly mention, using the backingless, is that what I call them? Backingless labels or backless labels? But to reduce the amount of wastage inside the shop, I often think that's one of those things that when we design a product, we often forget about what the customer actually does.
Great.
Right? And just continuing on this then, Phil, what's the customer feedback been like? We've talked about it from a technology perspective and from a store operator perspective. What about the customer? What do they say?
Well, this is where it gets interesting, because for us, there's multiple customers in this chain. So Evri, obviously, as our customer in some respects, they're pleased, they're happy, they've seen good, strong satisfaction results from their customers, so the end user, who are seeing a much more simple, easy process to be able to adopt and enact. But then also there's a third customer, there's a third sort of wheel to this, let's say, and that's the convenience store. And a colleague of mine, one of the actual developers of the solution itself, we actually did some recent store visits to these convenience store owners and larger chains with, you know, supervisory and managerial staff. And they were raving about the proposition because it's stopping the queue at the till. It's stopping, again, that complaint of, I can't get this to work. It's not, I don't know where to scan the parcel, or even simple things as, what do I do with my rubbish? So for us, we're really proud of this technology. And again, what we can do next to further enhance and further deliver, because it's been a huge, huge success.
A queue buster for e-commerce returns by the sounds of it, Phil. Phil, if people want to find out more about Zebra, because we've really not talked a lot about what Zebra does, but obviously Zebra, a technology company, and I may have mentioned something about barcodes earlier on, so people probably know what Zebra does. If people want to find out more about Zebra, where should they go? 2
places, I suppose. I said the first and foremost is go to zebra.com. Obviously, that is the home of most of the information about us, and will give the call to action in terms of contacting us and contacting us as individual business units. If you want to contact me directly, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will happily help and point you in the right direction if I can't help myself.
I'll stick a link to the Zebra website and to Phil's LinkedIn profile on the episode page on thepostalhub.com. So if you're out walking the dog, or I don't know, if you're on holiday, you lucky thing, go to thepostalhub.com, look for the episode page, and you'll see a link to the Zebra website and to Phil's LinkedIn profile. Phil Sambrook, EMEA Transport and Logistics Strategy at Zebra. Thanks for joining us on the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Coming soon on the Postal Hub podcast, Associate Professor Helene Buldeo-Rai from VUB Mobilise joins me to talk about e-commerce returns, and Gordon Stewart from the Information Factory will be joining us too. What will he be talking about? It's a secret. It's so secret, not even I know at this point. Anyway, to find out this mystery and many other things, Anyway, just subscribe. You know what I'm going to say. Subscribe. Subscribe in Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast platform floats your boat. Get into it, subscribe, and leave a rating while you're there. 5 out of 5, please. That'd be great. If you want to leave a review, I don't know, some platforms might allow you to leave a review. That'd be nice. You know, think of it as a little present for me ahead of episode number 400. Anyway, if you want to subscribe to any of my great email newsletters, go to thepostalhub.com and follow the links to sign up there. And if you want to email me about anything at all, email me at ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.